Welcome guys to Rebel Rock. I am Dan. This is our little show about collecting records. Rock and roll music. I mean, all types of music, but mostly rock and roll. I have a stack here of music I just bought in the last month or so. And it's all Australian rock and roll bands. There is so much history in Australia with rock and roll music. It all started with Radio Birdman and the Saints, with that great punk rock and roll sound that was going on. And I've found some disciples of those bands that continue to make music today, actually, some of them. The first album I ordered was this reissue of the first Saints album, I'm Stranded. Original pressings of this, really expensive, so I said, you know what, we don't need an original pressing. The repress cost me about $30, $35, somewhere in there. Even these are kind of difficult to come by, which is kind of shocking because you'd think that someone would have this in print, but I don't think so. I don't even know if this is an official release, to be honest with you. I spun it, it sounded good, so I'm glad to add it to the collection because it's a piece of history. If I could find that third Saints album, it's really expensive. One day. I don't think they ever reissued it either. Next up, I was talking about, you know, the bands that came after. The Saints obviously helped pave the way for that punk sound in Australia. But then by the 80s, you had bands like the Exploding White Mice. And I've read a lot about these guys. I haven't heard a ton of their stuff. There's not a bunch on like Spotify. They have their last album, which isn't very good. You can find some YouTube clips of them playing live. But these guys are great. This first album they released was back in, I believe, '88. So you have some of that shitty 80s production going on, which is unfortunate, but the songs are still great. It's still rocking, straight ahead, 2.5-minute rock and roll songs. How do I describe them? 3 chords, just straight ahead, no bullshit. Kind of Ramonesy, later Ramonesy style stuff in there. But great. I love the guitar tones. The bass is kind of buried in the mix, but that's part of the charm. So we snagged that up. We also got the follow-up Exploding White Mice album as well. And I believe this one came out in 1990. Look at that album cover. I have not heard this one, but I'm thrilled to. Where did I get this from? I feel like I ordered this in Portugal or somewhere. It took forever to show up. I'm glad I waited though. It finally showed up. Took about a month. And now we got 2 Exploding White Mice album. How many people in the States have that album? I don't know. Probably not many. From the same seller I bought, I also got this Screaming Tribesmen, another Australian band from around the same time period. Yep, this was in '88. This was released. Another band in that same scene and movement. The production's even worse. Egregious with that 80s production. So it kind of takes me out of it a little bit. But for $5, I wasn't going to pass it up. I love that cover. I'm excited to kind of give it a deep spin to let it soak up in my ears. Another band, Australian, Lime Spiders. Look at that cover. Incredible. Another one from 1988. So 1988 in Australia for that punk scene was happening. It was popping off. I've heard some of this. I do enjoy it, but I can't say much more than that because I've only heard a few songs. I like to order albums. I try not to listen to too much of it online just because what's the point of having the album if I'm just going to stream it the whole time? So I'd rather just put it on the turntable behind me and kind of soak it in as I'm, exercising, working out, cleaning up, doing that kind of stuff, and really soak it in. But thrilled to add all those. Now to the more modern stuff that's still happening in Australia. Man, their scene right now it's so good. I wish I was in Australia right now, because I would definitely be going to a lot of shows. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that dig this stuff. There's probably other bands I don't even know about. A band that I featured on the channel a few weeks back was a band called Civic that I just discovered not long ago. Randomly on Spotify, it popped up. And I'm glad it did, because these guys are fantastic. So I ordered this off their official Bandcamp. This is their 45 7-inch single, Those Who Know. And I haven't spun this one yet either, because this just came in the mail. But this is from 2018, so this got a little bit of time on it. This might have been the first release, or pretty early for them. They have a brand new album coming out that I just pre-ordered. I'm excited. It's so much fun to be on the ground level with a band like that that's being really creative, and they're really pushing hard, and just coming up. And I don't know, is there a place in the world right now for these guys? In my heart there is, but for, you know, everywhere else, I don't know. Probably in Australia, because obviously there's a bunch of good bands happening. We also found the album that I first heard by Civic, called New Vietnam. And this one's long out of print, guys. So I was thrilled to find this. It was up in Canada. I found it on Discogs, and I snagged it right up. This is super trashy rock and roll, guys. Really garagey, and very much in the Radio Birdman line of thought. But I'm thrilled. Look at that cover too. Just real basic, bold. If you guys haven't heard Civic, please, please, please check them out. All my rock and roll friends out there, I think you'll dig it. We snagged up the first Amyl and the Sniffers album. I remember when this came out, and I wasn't a fan. I didn't get it. But that new album they released last year is fantastic. So I'm going to go back and give this another shot, because I think there's probably something there. There probably is. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it. I don't know. That happens. I probably was wrong about this album. I hope I'm wrong, because, well, I spent $25, so it better be good. And the last one we snagged up was another recommendation from Spotify. Sometimes you get lucky, you know, not very often, but listening to Civic, this band also popped up. And it's called Constant Mongrel. Constant Mongrel. And Excellence is the name of the album. And we had to snag this up. This is a, how do you describe it? I guess Joy Division-esque, dark wavy stuff. But they're a legit band. The guitar work's fantastic. Monotone kind of vocals, real stripped down, dark, sets an atmosphere. I love it. I think it's a great, great album. And once again, I lucked out. Found this for cheap, $14 Discogs. I guess no one else in the U.S. is hip to these guys at the moment, but I certainly am. So that's going to wrap up this week's episode. We went back to Australia. I think for the moment, I'm almost done with Australia. There's a couple other bands I'm looking for, but I'm having a hard time finding some of the vinyl. But for now, yeah, we're going to move on. We're going to have to move on. But I got so much new music to listen to. Let me know, have you checked out any of these bands? Obviously, the Saints, but Civic, Constant, Mongrel, check them out. Amyl and the Sniffers, obviously. Bell Records, cool t-shirt, cool guy here. Until next time, guys, do what you do, and toodaloo.